Okay, welcome to round 2 of our one with Grixis tempo. We are on the draw. We have a decent hand. We have 2 sword size. We have 2 force will, days, and a later clock in form of Barrowgrove, but we have only 1 land. But I think on the draw it's fine. We have turn 1 play with sword size. We have a days, so I think it's a keep. We drew a wasteland. Our opponent openings with polluted data, so it could be a mirror match. And here we have the decision to fetch maybe a basic island, but I think it's worth it going for the underground sea and play a sword size. Our opponent is willing to force here with a pitched Tamio, so that rings lightly an alarm bell, because a Dimir tempo deck would not force so aggressively on a sword size. So I'm thinking maybe it could be Doomsday, some kind of combo deck to protect his Doomsday or Dark Ritual. And he fetched even from basic island, so I think it could be Doomsday. And now he's playing Ancient Tomb and Lotus Battle. So no Doomsday here. It's Sneak and Show or Show and Tell. A little bit unexpected. But here our opponent has 1 card left in hand. So there's no point of dazing to get rid of the Lotus Battle or play around a Whale of Summer or Flusterstorm. So I think we just force it clean here and keep the days open, because our opponent has 4 mana. And if he maybe finds a sneak attack, maybe our days is live. You can also make an argument to pitch the days, it's also fine, maybe the better play. And here we are forcing sword sizing again, get rid of the left Atraxa. And we are not going to waste, because our opponent draws from the top of his library. If we waste, we can permit show and tell, but we need that window to apply our own clock to win the game as fast as possible. And here for that reason, we play just land, not wasteland, to apply our Barrowgrove to the battlefield. A Bowmaster is fine, because after wasting, we have another pressure, so that our opponent can't brainstorm or maybe ponder. And here we are playing Barrowgrove, and with a decent backup in form of a little bit weak days. But we have to play our outs. And here's the brainstorm. So, speaking of the devil, our Bowmaster is not live anymore, and but our opponent concedes here surprisingly, and I think that's the strength of Barrowgrove. If you compare it with a Nethergolf, for example, I do not think that our opponent will concede to a Nethergolf, but Barrowgrove is such a huge clock. If he connects once, he snowboards itself. I think that's one big reason to play Barrowgrove over Nethergolf. And for the sideboarding, I'm getting here rid of Fatal Push. I think it's really a dead card in this matchup, and I'm considering here what cards to bring in, what we saw. And I think Show and Tell matchup is an excellent matchup for Pyroblast, so I'm really want to bring all the Pyroblast we can into it. I'm cutting here Brazen Boar because I'm thinking it's not doing as much as expected, and I'm thinking here whether we want to keep the Molten Collapse, but I think there's no valid target. If we bring Pyroblast in, we can get rid of an Atraxa body, so there's no need for Molten Collapse. We can't Molten Collapse the Emerald Core, so I think it's fine cutting Molten Collapse. So we have 1 card overlap, and I'm considering here what to bring in, and I'm thinking it's absolutely fine to keep the Brazen in. It can bounce maybe something, but for foremost it's just a blue card. We can pitch it to force to our 6 forces, so I think it's fine. It's a clock. It's okay. It's better than Molten Collapse. And here I'm considering Hydroblast, and I'm thinking too, but we didn't see any kind of sneak attack, so I'm not quite sure whether at this point he's playing sneak attack, and I'm willing to not bring them in until we see really is a confirmed sneak attack, because we saw I think a basic island, we saw an ancient tomb in the Lotus Battle, we didn't see, I think, a volcanic island. I could get through the log, but I was a little bit lazy there, but I didn't bring in the Hydroblast because I didn't see or remember any red approach, but our opponent tells us wrong, and he openings with a volcanic island. And here I'm considering really hard in wasting just a volcanic island, because I'm really feared of Ancient Tomb Show and Tell or some other cards with a 3-drop, so maybe another draw spell or something. But I think it's okay to just opening with a sword size here. And here our mana base comes in handy because I'm fetching here for the Badlands because we have Pyroblast and Sword Size, Bowmaster, Barrowgraph, all black cards, and we have until now no live blue cards. The Brazen Borrower is just fodder for the Force of Will, so I'm thinking Badlands is really handy at this stage of the game, and our opponent shows us a strong hand. With Force of Will, with Stock Up, Sneak Attack, and Show and Tell, so he is at least Sneak Attack deck with a red approach, so Hydroblast could come into game 3 after boarding. But the main weakness at this point is our opponent doesn't have any kind of soul lands. He just has a mountain, as we know. And here I'm considering what I'm most feared of. I'm most feared of Ancient Tomb Sneak Attack. And I want, if our opponent has Ancient Tomb, we can Pyroblast the draw spell, the stock up. And here I'm thinking it's fine to waste our opponent, because if we waste our opponent, he can't play the stock up, and he really needs Soland, and it's protecting us from sneak attack mainly. Because even if our opponent has an Ancient Tomb, he can only cast the stock up, where we have a clean answer in form of Pyroblast, but we have no clean answer to sneak attack until now. And our opponent had the Ancient Tomb, and he's playing the line as we considered. So we are Pyroblasting the stock up. We know our opponent has a Force of Will with an unknown card remaining in hand. It must be blue. And even if he forces, we can force back, and we will, because just a mountain, a sneak attack will not get our opponent over the finish line. And with the stock up, he can search for a Traxa or Emrakul, and we countered back. So our opponent is left with a mountain and a sneak attack, so he will next turn play the mountain and sneak attack. We have no valid counterplay or active play, so we are just applying our Bowmaster in our main phase, because if our opponent finds maybe a Brainstorm, or maybe a Ponder, it's likely more a Brainstorm, we can prevent it from casting if our opponent will decide to slow down the sneak attack. But he doesn't, he just applies it and has one card remaining. So the card comes from the top of his library, so it's not known by us. And here we have the option to just play our Barrowgolf, or keep it or play it safe and applying the sword size. And I'm thinking here that if we don't apply the sword size now, the sword size will never be live. And I'm taking here the risk of going down in pressure and just making sure that our opponent doesn't have an Emrakul or Traxa at his hand. It was just a second sneak attack, but I think this line is fine. You could also make an argument for just going more in an aggressive approach, in just playing the Barrel Golf, but it's one turn later, the same outcome, with the difference that our opponent has now a fetch land, so he can surveil and manipulate the top of his library. And here we are playing the Barrel Golf. We want to keep the Tamio in hand in case we find one of our 5 remaining Force of Wills in our deck. So not Force of Will, but 3 Force of Will and 3 Force of Negation is remaining in our deck. Same goes for 2 Pyroblast, but we want to keep the Tamio as fodder for Force of Will. We can hardcast a Force of Negation, and our opponent maybe bricks here or do a Brainstorm, I don't know for sure. And we are going to connect, and hopefully our Barrel Golf will give us some more cards. Maybe an Orcish Bowmaster would be fine. And he bricks, so we have no creature from our graveyard. And here we are just passing to keep up Force of Negation hardcast, and also pitched if our opponent has some form of fluster spell, but he conceded, he bricked entirely. And at last we want to take a little bit peek of our decklist and see what cards were good, what cards were bad. I think Molten Collapse doesn't matter in this matchup, we bought it out, but I think it's a really strong argument for the 3 Pyroblast in our main board. They that card was really good. We countered a stock up pretty easy, and also I think the Badlands really showed his strength because we could Sword Size on turn 1 and Pyroblast on turn 2, so I'm really satisfied with this build so far. So thanks for watching, and we look to see us back in game 3 of D1.